Hi, everyone. As the presenter was already spoiling, that's what we will talk today, right? And the moment of truth to me is the claim process. We, as all insured, right? It's the moment when we get in contact with the provider, and it's the moment of truth also for the carrier because that's when they can really get in touch with the customer, right? And you know, customer centricity is really hyped today, right? Everyone is talking about customer centricity, customer journey, put customers at the center of the strategy. And if you're looking at every strategic plan of every carrier and broker and reinsurer, probably you will find that one of the pillars is really to be more customer driven, right? And how can you really have technology enabling you to get closer to customers, right? So the customer obsession is, to me, really what customers are looking for today, right? From one side, we as customers are looking at speed, right? So we are all used to e-shopping, prime customer, and every time we have food delivery, we are instantly checking where the driver is, how much time do we have to wait, even if it's minutes, right? And with the insurance, it's the same, meaning that we have the same expectation, but the reality check is completely different, right? Because when it's come to insurance, and if you submit your claims independently from the line of business, you have to wait a lot until you have the first confirmation that your claim has been submitted, and then you have to wait and wait and wait, right? So even if speed is part of the expectation we all have as customers, right, it's not matching the reality. On the other side, we want empathy, right? So the claim, depending on the severity, is a moment of loss, right? So and we as humans are looking for empathy. That doesn't counter effect the idea that technology can help. It's the other way around to me, right? Just because if you can have technology speeding up the process from one side, you can still keep the empathy, the human touch in the loop, right? And I think it's really important to me to embrace all the aspects of what customers are looking for in this specific moment. It's an occasion for carriers, right, to be close to the customers, because after you sign for a product that you hope not to use, and that's a very strange product, the other moment where you can get in touch with your carrier is exactly the claim, right? Objectivity, no one wants to really be judged or evaluated based on human subjectivity, right? So, and that's, again, is reinforcing the need for technology, because technology is objective, right? So if it's wrong, it's always wrong. It's predictable in the way it's behaving. Humans are not predictable, right? And that's also the beauty. But if I'm looking at a claim on Monday, probably my reaction will be different if I'm looking at it on Friday, right? That's happening in all human process. And if we are looking at the same claim, probably we might come to different conclusions, right? Flexibility, of course, each one of us is special, and we want also to be considered with flexibility, right? Once we are evaluated, our situation is particular and special. So to me, this slide is representing a little bit the four pillars of, really expectation that we as customers are having. But these are not all reflected in reality, right? Indeed, the claims process today is a complex process. And, the as is situation is that the process is really what I define as language intensive. So all the documents that are part of the first notice of loss, for example, are based on knowledge intense documents that are written, multiple pages, medical report, police report, statement, forms, and the like. It's highly manual, so you have people. Once you send your first notice of loss, what's happening on the other side is that you have people that are reading, opening the documents, finding the right information, check liability, and you name them. You know better than I know. The customer experience we mentioned before, it's poor and slow, right? So despite the expectation we have, standardization, despite several actions, is not yet there, right? And high leakage. So the variability I was mentioned before is also returned in different payouts, right? That's difficult to evaluate for insurances, but that's a reality. Subjectivity is part of the process, and skills in the claims handling side department is also jeopardized because you have different expertise. So that's the picture. It's a complex picture, right? And I just listed 5 of the top challenges once you want to start introducing technology in the claims process. So the first point is where to start, right? So everyone is just trying to find the right place where to start. So data quality is the elephant in the room, right? So we all talk about technology, but sometimes the data quality is not enough to introduce technology, or there might be some different expectation that needs to be verified. Change management is also an important piece. The first project we ran like 5 years ago, we're completely ignoring the change management impact, right? That was a big lesson. So at one point, this first customer had to stop the initiative because they were kind of, really disrupted by the change they had to manage that they hadn't calculated and predicted upfront, right? So change management should be considered as one of the key elements within this type of initiative. Expectation, return on investment, and metrics is another big challenge, right? Because you have several stakeholders once you start this type of initiative, introducing technology in the claims department. Return on investment should always be there, right? But you have also to make sure that the metrics that will be used are shared across the board. And then, of course, there's the midterm strategy around, quick win results and something you can benefit immediately versus a midterm strategy where you really want to create engagement for all and adoption for all the users. So this is the challenges, right? So, and I'm not just leaving you with the challenges, I will give you also some best practices, but that's the picture of where we are today. The type of technology I would like to introduce you today is intelligent automation or intelligent process automation. And the important piece of this type of technology is in the intelligent adjective, right? So you have process automation. There's a lot of hype. It's a mature technology, process automation today, productive almost in every company, right? And it's about really automating some tasks. Manual task, right? And as the word is suggesting, manual is typically done with the hand, right? So, and indeed, this is where process automation is represented in my metaphor, the hand, right? But then when you want to progress and really augment and increase the type of process you want to automate, you will get stuck because there are some processes that are based on knowledge, that are cognitive processes, where you need to use your brain, right? And this is where artificial intelligence in different nuances with different type of technologies can really help in automating also cognitive process. And that's the reason for calling this type of technology intelligent process automation, where you really need to use your brain to come to a conclusion, right? And in particular, this is a very high level workflow of how you can integrate with existing system in a claim department, right? You may have the mail route, the claim processing system, different type of repository where you have insight of data. So what this type of technology can help you doing is here in the claims data insight and record digitization, right? So where basically you have all the documents. These examples is coming from the worker compensation line of business, but the insights you want to detect automatically from data is the ICD codes, so the body parts that were mainly involved in the accident, the diagnosis, the condition, the restriction. So something that is really helping you streamlining the process so that you don't have to read entirely all the documents. You can have technology bring them into the surface for the claims handler so that they can speed up the process, right? How we are doing it, right? So I'm going to spend a few words around the type of approach. I mentioned high level, intelligent process automation, right? And the type of technology we're using is specifically in the natural language processing area. And as the name is suggesting, is really going through written documents, unstructured documents. What is an unstructured document? Could be a tweet, could be an email, could be a medical report. So everything that is written the way we communicate as humans, right? And it's called natural language for this reason. And it's unstructured because you cannot predict the way it will be presented to you, right? You cannot predict how an email you receive will be written. You can predict some of the content based on the subject, but you don't know exactly how the sentences will appear, right? Or exactly the concept that will be used. The same is happening in a medical report, in a policy, in a survey, in a risk engineering, right? Differently is an invoice, right? An invoice, you can predict some of the content in terms of the geographic place where the information can be found, right? You can expect that the total amount will be in the lower part, right? So in the bottom part, right. That's where our brain is expecting the type of information. And in particular, we have a unique way to really combine these natural language processing, and we call it hybrid or composite AI is how Gartner is referring to it today. And basically, from one side, you have a traditional type of technology and approach that is called symbolic AI. Basically, is based on rules and knowledge. So behind the scenes, what we have is a very powerful brain. It's a knowledge graph, right? And I'm just oversimplifying it, but it's kind of a very clever dictionary that is including all the potential meaning and words and synonyms of language, right? So that's the brain because it's the embedded knowledge. And then it comes together with a set of algorithms that are able to apply all the analysis that we are doing and we were used to do at school. Like you do grammar analysis, you're doing part of speech, you're doing semantic analysis at the end of the day, right? You're assigning a unique meaning to every word. And I'm giving you an example, right? If I'm saying claim, right? Everyone is thinking about claim in a claim process, right? Or a claim when you open a claim. But claim could also be a verb to claim something, right? I'm claiming. So, and luckily we use words in context, right? So, and that's helping us applying this process very quickly in our brain. It's called disambiguation process, right? So we disambiguate. Basically, we go through all the possible meaning of every word we know, and we say, oh, this is the right one because of this context, right? So, and there's plenty of ambiguous words, right? So in every language, more than we think, right? So another great example came from a real medical report from a customer, right? So we had two different medical reports. One stated that the patient had pain at the back and the neck, and the other one was that the patient had pain at the back of the neck, right? So back and neck were written, and look, it's complicated for a software, right? Because you have two words at the same distance, written exactly the same, but that's changing the code, right? Because one is just specifying the position of another body part, and the other one is bringing another body part, right? So, and we as humans, we can immediately understand the meaning, right? It's not so easy for software, right? And the analysis of the context is just what is helping us reproducing this very complicated process. We are doing, an awareness in our mind, right? So that's the symbolic AI methodology, right? The knowledge graph, the embedded knowledge, and we specialize it over time for insurance because, you have to speak the insurance language, right? So if I'm giving like a medical report or a policy to a person who is able to read, that doesn't mean necessarily that the understanding will be 100%, okay? So the capability to read is completely different from the capability to understand. And that's what we learned, right? And that's the reason for us to specialize our components to be able to understand from day zero insurance documents. You have to speak the same language. That's what we learned, right? The second type of approach we're using to combine it and make this hybrid and composite AI is machine learning, of course, right? So we are taking the best of both, right? And I don't know how mature you might be in experimenting some of these models, but in some complex use cases, machine learning by itself cannot be enough, right? You might not have enough training data to develop the model, right? And this is where symbolic can complement because we already have the knowledge graph, so you don't have to tell us the obvious, right? So basically, these two approaches are compensating the cons of every type of approach and is making enabling scalability because with machine learning, you can enable scalability, creating a lot of unsupervised feedback loop, right? But with symbolic, what we can have is faster results from day zero, right? But also accurate results in some very complex scenario, okay? So this kind of combination is one of the unique selling proposition of our technology and of our approach. So I mentioned before that I won't leave you with the challenges, okay? So indeed, what we've did over time in our experience in delivering automation, intelligent automation initiative in the insurance and reinsurance space is that we've learned together something, and we've put together our 5 best practices in using natural language processing. And this is valid across all the line of business, so we are generalizing the lesson learned. So the first is build the AI business case. It might seem obvious, but sometimes, you start by defining where you want to really apply technology, because there's, someone, a sponsor, or there's a need, or there's a pain. But you have to really make sure that you have a business case around AI. Could be a good fit for technology, yes, but if you don't have the business case, it won't be used, right? So, and volumes, for example, are good metrics, right? If you have very small data set to be processed, you should evaluate the value of them, right? Because if you have small number of documents to be processed, but they require a lot of time, yes, that's maybe a good use case. So for me, building the business AI business case is always very relevant to start any type of initiative. If there's no business case, probably, you can start experimenting, but the objective is not experimenting, right? So that's the first best practice. The second one is around expectation. You know better than I know that when you start every type of AI automation initiative, there's a lot of stakeholders, right? So you have the users, you have the owner, you have a lot of visibility around what's happening, right? So you have to make sure that all the stakeholders have the right expectation of what they will receive from the initiative, right? And the reason is that, there's also a lot of variation when it comes to education around AI. It's very hype. The fact it's hype, it's not reassuring us that everyone is knowledgeable, okay? The other way around, there's also a lot of, misconception. There's a lot of false expectation around that. Oh, you can automate 100%. You can be 100% accurate. No, that's not the case. But neither humans are 100% accurate, right? So keeping realistic expectation is helping you driving all the stakeholders to the finish line with the right mindset, okay, and not have some sort of disillusionment or potential counter effect, okay? And you have to make sure that you continue to feed the expectation for all the stakeholders. Keep humans in the loop. That's, to me, very important for how we see technology as an empowerment, right? So, and of course, there's some specific activities that can be automated 100%. Yes, right? Is it the entire claims process? No, to me, right? And because of the empathy I was mentioning before, because of some complex project, because we cannot be replaced, to me, right? In all the parts. In some parts, yes, right? And the idea is human in the loops are really helping you delivering the experience that we as customers are expecting, right? So we want technology just for the speed, for the objectivity, right? But for empathy, we are looking to talk to humans, right? So, and a recent Forrester survey indeed demonstrated that it doesn't matter the age. It's not that old people want to talk to people and young don't want. No, it's the same, right? So in specific moment, we need empathy as humans, right? So human in the loop to me are really relevant for offering the complete experience from one standpoint. For the other standpoint is enabling the adoption, right? And is helping people in trusting technology internally and externally, right? Because you will have people that are getting more and more familiar with technology. They are working with technology, right? So you will find out that also people that initially were kind of detractor of this type of initiative will embrace technology because they will familiarize with it, okay? So humans in the loop for us are very important in different steps of the processes. Also in the knowledge transfer, right? So subject matter expert involvement, right? They are your internal stakeholders and internal customers at the end of the initiative. If they're not in from day zero, probably you might end up in not having adoption, which is another very relevant aspect, right? So follow a proven AI path is also relevant to me because you really want to make sure that you will be successful, right? So once you start this type of initiative, something that is useful. So if you're taking examples of what worked in other places with different providers, that's helpful, right? So, and of course, that doesn't necessarily mean you have to copy and paste. No, it's just about learning what is working and applying it to your specific scenario. The adoption I mentioned a while ago is really important. So the objective is not going live. If technology is not used, that's twice a failure to me, right? Because you invested time, money, and it's working, yes, but no one is using it. Okay, so you have to really make sure you have engagement throughout the entire journey, and you really feed the adoption will happen. And I mentioned before detractor and promoter. You will end up in having always this type of profiles across the board, right? So you have to make sure you combine them somehow, because that's very helpful. We'll offer you some criticism that is helpful to improve the tools and also to listen to these different voices. So tangible KPIs, of course, I know that everyone wants to know, okay, but how much can I save? Which is the return on the investment? So I'm sharing some key benefits and, some real life experience. So the main element are, offering a faster claims review, and you can think about full-time equivalent saving. You can think about time processing saving. You can then nail it down to your specific scenario and the problem you want to solve. But 40% faster claim processing is a reality, okay? And that's coming from productive solution we have in place, which is huge if you're thinking about how long it takes today, and if you can reduce this processing time by 40%, okay? Increase customer satisfaction. That's a direct consequence. If you're offering a faster process, we go back to the expectation as customers. We want everything to be very fast, right? So, and you can measure it through NPS or other type of survey that are helping you identifying how customers are happy. And look, if customers are happy during a claim, there's 80% probability they will renew the policy. It's huge, right? And that's the reason for me to title it the moment of truth, right? And then you can, of course, identify and remove potential leakage in the process. It's depending in terms of quantification on the volumes. That's the reason for us not putting any numbers there. And then, of course, you have additional side benefits, like you really embed process expertise. You really can have more efficient throughput, better accuracy. Results can be explainable, right? So again, it's not that everything is a black box. No, that's not the way. If you really want to keep human in the loop, you have to be transparent and explainable. You can offer increased compliance, stronger fraud detection, because you can analyze many data points. So there's a lot. And of course, it's depending also on what you're looking for. I'm just closing my speech just by recalling you a few words about expert.ai. That's the name of the company. I think I didn't mention it, but we have a booth here. So if you come through, we will be happy to run live demo or whatever you would like to deep dive a little bit. Just recapping our unique selling points. So we mentioned our hybrid approach. We are natural language experts, so we are not a startup. We're doing it since 30 years, even when we were in the winter of AI. Okay, our approach is really guaranteeing better TCO, real world results. Our customers' portfolio is speaking for us. That's the finance and insurance top logos, and we have a platform that is built intentionally for natural language processing, right? So that's the purpose-built platform. So I will be happy to take any question you might have. We still have a couple of minutes, I guess.
Yep. Yeah, we have a couple of minutes. Anybody have any questions?